Hello, it's Deborah from the attic, and today I want to share with you these dies. These are from a new brand, Paper Discovery, and this is a brand by Olga Direktorenko, and I have been a fan of her work since I found her YouTube channel about 2 years ago. So when I heard that she'd released her own brand, Paper Discovery, I was absolutely thrilled. And when CraftStash asked me if I'd like to work with her products, I said, yes, please. These dies are exclusively available from CraftStash, and I've checked on your behalf, and they do ship globally. Full details of how you can get free delivery and 20% off your first order are below this video. I've already cut out these dies because I wanted you to see what they look like, and the easiest way is if you see them cut out. And I'm going to use the arch and the background for my project today. This makes a beautiful dimensional or flat tag, and I'm going to show you how to make both of those. The other set that I'm going to use is this one. This is called Bird and Branch die set, and you can see there are lots of branches. There are 7 dies in this. There are 6 branches, and then there is 1 die containing all of those bird shapes, so you don't have to fiddle about on your die cutter with individual birds. They're all contained on the 1 die. To begin with, I'm going to cut out the 2 arch shapes, and I've laid them down on my cutting platform on a piece of white cardstock, and I've used some washi tape to hold them into position because I want the arch to be as even around the outside as I can get it. That's my first piece, so I'll put the smaller piece to one side because I'm not going to use that. I'm going to now cut just a piece of tracing paper that I found in my stash, as well as the card, and this time I'm only going to use the larger of the outside arches, and I can cut through these 2 layers because the tracing paper is very thin. I'm going to get some waste paper and use that to protect my mat underneath, and I'm using the tracing paper to stamp onto. This is a stamp from Impression Obsessions, and I'm using a StazOn grey ink to stamp onto it. I'm using StazOn because on the tracing paper there's less risk that this will smudge as long as I put the stamp down nice and cleanly on top of it. And also when you take it away, there's less risk that you'll smudge it because it dries so quickly. I'm going to do some stamping directly onto the bottom of the arch, and I'm using a stamp from My Favourite Things. I'll provide a link to this below. I've inked up a word that says shine, and I'm using a WOW embossing pad and an Altenew gold embossing powder. And having stamped it up, I'm going to use the embossing powder and I'm going to heat set that. And the word simply says shine. All will become clear as we make the tag. I'm going to put this piece to one side, and now I'm going back to my StazOn ink pad. This is the same grey, and I'm inking up the same word stamp. Any word stamp will do, it doesn't matter, I just happen to have this one in my stash. And I'm going to ink directly onto the large arch background. Now I'm going to trace around the outside arch, and I'm going to cut out another piece of tracing paper. I could have used the die cutter, but because I want this tracing paper to be slightly smaller than the arch, I find it just as easy to use my scissors. I'm applying little dots of glue directly to the background of my tag, and I'm going to use these Nouveau flakes. These are gold square flakes, and they shimmer and shine beautifully, and they're less messy than glitter. This may look like it's going to be a shaker card. Actually, it's not. I want that glittery sheen to be visible through the tag at all times. I don't want you to have to shake the tag in order to see the glitter, and I have avoided going around the outside of that where I will be gluing my arch frame, and I'll be setting the glittery background to one side to dry. In the meantime, I've gone around the outside edge of my arch and I've applied my tracing paper. I'm just gluing that down into position. I've selected one of the tree branches and I'm going to have this going diagonally across the arch. Now we're working on the inside of the arch, or the reverse of the arch. So what you're seeing is the background. I'm gluing my branches into position just using where they touch the frame. That way there won't be any glue visible from the front. This is it from the front, you can see, because we have the word shine at the bottom, and I'm just cutting off the excess branches so they don't stick out. I've turned my tag over again and working from the back, I am finding where I want to position my birds, and I'm adding just a dot of glue onto the birds, just enough to hold them onto their branches, and I'm slipping them behind the branches so that when the tag is turned over, the birds are what you will see most predominantly. I am going to be adding more adhesive to these birds so they don't need to stick in place. The important thing is not to get any glue on your tracing paper. I'm using a craft foam sheet, and I find this great for going around the outside of tags to create dimension. You can cut down the strips to suit exactly the size or dimension or width that you need, and then if you use an instant tack glue like you can with a glue runner, it means that when you apply your craft foam, not only will it be ideal for your project, but because it's got a little bit of flex on it, you can squish it around the shape that you need it to be. It's much easier than fiddling around with lots of foam pads, I find. So this again is being applied to the reverse of the tag. This is where I apply the additional adhesive to my birds. I'm adding a little spot of glue, and I'm going to cut down my craft foam so that it will just go across the back of the birds like this. And I'll do that for all three of them. I'm ready to assemble the piece now, so I'm adding some glue on the craft foam on the outside and also on the back of my birds, and when I turn the whole thing over, I can glue it directly onto my shimmery golden background. A nice easy way to get things to glue down flat without you having to hold them is to use a stamp block. When everything is dry, I'm going to pop in a little tag. I've left a tiny little space at the back so I can do this. So I'm adding some glue, and I've got a piece of gold ribbon, and I'm just gluing that into the top of my tag. And again, I'll use a block to hold it down until everything is firmly in position. I'm going to complete my tag by adding a bird that I've cut from some metallic gold card. And once this is glued down, the whole tag will make sense with the word shine at the bottom of it. You could use the word fly or soar or whatever you happen to have in your stash. And beneath it, those little white birds through the tracing paper look like lace. For our next tag, we've prepared it in exactly the same way, and this is the tracing paper that I reserved from earlier that I inked up with some words. I'm going around the background of my arch just with a thin line of instant tack adhesive, and I'm going to glue my tracing paper down onto that. Now when you actually position the paper onto the glue, you'll see that the glue shows through. This doesn't matter because we're going to add the frame on top. I've got my branches again, and this time it's a little bit easier. We're just going to adhere these to the inside of the frame. I'm going to use instant tack glue again, just on the frame so that they catch the branch, and then I'll trim off the excess. Keep everything nice and neat and within the frame. I'm going around the outside of the frame now, and this is the back of the frame with the instant tack glue, and I'm just going to position it directly onto my background tag. You can see to my left there are some more of my birds which I've cut from my metallic gold card. I think they make a wonderful contrast against the dark frame. And they're all just flying upwards. They're glued down now, and I'm using a stamp block to hold them in position while they dry. And when I take the block away, that's my tag. I'm going to add an eyelet into the top of this tag, so I'm using my crocodile. But before I punch the hole, I'm going to use a pencil just to eyeball where I think the centre is. So I punch my hole out, and then I apply my gold eyelet, gold to match the birds. I want to add some thread to the top of this so it will make a nice gift tag. So I've got a piece of twine, I'm folding it in half, I'm putting a knot in the bottom, and I'm going to feed the loop through from the back of the tag to the front and then turn it back on itself so I have a nice loop so I can hang this or I can attach it to a gift. I'm going to say thank you very much for your time. Thank you for watching. I'm going to leave you with some music and some close-ups of our tags today, and until we meet again, take care.